This space opera is written in the voice of extraterrestrial beings who desire nothing more than to see our humanity triumph through a developmental threshold into an existence of prosperity.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show, 10,000 Heroes, the podcast whose mission is social transformation through very personal change. And more precisely, 10,000 Heroes, we define a hero as somebody who is acting in alignment with their purpose and thus living their life as a contribution. Now, that's a tall order, and we're all at different stages in that journey, but wherever you are, if we can help, inspire, or facilitate you taking another step towards our collective effervescence, no matter how small, I will consider today a good day, to quote Ice Cube. And my guest today is Joe Bridge, who has recently released an absolutely incredible space opera called We Are Rising. And as you hear, he's working on more space operas. And these are actually very deep philosophy disguised as funky space jams. So if you even like one of those words, I would highly encourage you to listen to the album on repeat and pay attention to the deep wisdom in the lyrics and in Joe's discussion today. So as always, we love hearing from you. Drop us a line, leave us a voicemail, hit us up on Twitter. All that contact info is in the show notes. And maybe just a special note of gratitude as we've seen our listeners and the numbers just take off in the past 5 months of this year. So I don't know who's doing that, but I think the people listening are responsible. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It's really fun to have such a broad reach these days. And I appreciate that we're doing it together. So let's roll. Joe Bridge, welcome to the show. Part of this project, this podcast, 10,000 Heroes, is that I get to interview people I love, people I admire, people that I don't know, but I admire them, and so I'm happy to talk to them, and then people that I've known for a long time. And you're someone that I've known for a long time and I admire. So I'm just winning on all counts here. And I'm very, very happy to be here with you.
Happy to be here with you.
And there's a million things we could talk about that, as I kind of mentioned a few minutes ago, I'm beginning to see this show after about a year. It's crystallizing for me a little more, and it's crystallizing around the notion of purpose, which is something that is always part of what we talk about, vision and purpose. But you're someone I really associate with a purpose around music. And for those who are paying attention, there's a little bit of piano that Joe's playing with in the background, and I'm happy to hear that. I wonder if you could tell me your vision for the role of music in our society as we develop.
You know, in a word, the voice of the people. I grew up, my parents, bless their hearts, gave me a lot of Pete Seeger, kind of, and then Woody Guthrie kind of were some of my early influences. And I loved how clear Pete Seeger was about people's music. That's how he defined his genre. He's really came at a point historically where he wanted to people picking up instruments again and everybody playing music. And yeah, that's really my vision. I think about I had some wonderful exposure to Indian classical music. There was this teacher when we were living in Portland, Michael Sterling, who talked about growing up in the age of the Beatles and how the world kind of black and white and gray place before the Beatles. Things got very colorful and everybody started their own band. So that little story is very, very close to my heart about people starting their own bands and making their own music and just expressing themselves. I'm sure we'll get into this later. Kind of my recent works, I've been in a genre I call space opera, and it's a lot of its exploration of the true nature of humanity and the power within each of us. And I see the voice as essential to kind of the evolution, our social, spiritual evolution. And to me, like Bob Marley used to call his music the newspaper. He wanted music to be the newspaper of his people. And so, that's what I want. I want all of us on village on a community basis to be producing and sharing our songs, and how that's looked in my life. Early roots, just singing in the car with my family, and getting through in high school. The label that the Hey Gang label, my sister came up with the name for that in '91. Just a group of us in high school making our own songs and recording, and that was just on cassette tapes, handing out. So that's what I want. That's what I want for people.
My mind goes to making a distinction between what you're talking about and the typical path of a musician, but I don't know if that's present for you. So I want to check on that. Is the idea to get famous, or is this is that incompatible, or is that compatible with what you're talking about?
I think it's perfectly compatible. I think of in our snapshot of in our culture now or recently, I don't see anything incompatible. One thing I'll just mention as an example from my own work is one choice I've made in sharing my music is to make songbooks with the chord charts and have it be not just a listening experience, but a participatory experience. So the rate of change is pretty drastic right now about how we interact with music with the evolution of technology. So I think it's a moving target to some degree. But part of my offering is, don't forget to include in that spectrum the making of the music. I just lent a 3/4 size classical guitar that I've enjoyed circulating through the community. I borrowed it back from my neighbor kid and lent it to Joe Sullivan, who teaches a music production class at Swim High School. So we made a lot of music together in the 90s and early 2000s. And it was cool because a lot of them, they're making music electronically, which is great, which is, part of my vision. But just kind of that guitar is being played by the kids in the classroom was kind of like, oh, they're playing an instrument now. And I also the singing, like a lot of the voice, I think there's just a lot of cultural values that we can explore and change as far as getting together and making music. Like, I don't know. I mean, you've experienced a lot of it, but getting together and singing as we had a lot of potlucks at our house and around a campfire and whatnot, and then in this space where we're at right now, we're in our practice space. This is a fun case study of what it means to let go of these concepts about who is a musician.
Okay, yeah, maybe I want to jump in there because to give a little background. So Joe and I have been in a band together for years, and it's been through many iterations. One of the names is This Is Our First Time. And one of the things that was so significant about that experience for me that I want to share with the audience, because it's very different than what we hear about what we associate with bands and music and being a musician, is that it was really a judgment-free zone where anybody could come, and just by virtue of being there, you were a musician. To the extent that anyone who came was declared to be in the band, and any week if someone didn't come, they were declared to be kicked out of the band. And the only qualification for whether you're a musician or not and part of the band is presence. And people like Joe, who are very accomplished musicians, were part of this, and Jake, and other people like myself, who I would not consider myself an actual musician, were just kind of pushed to the forefront and allowed to be creative without any kind of bounds or judgment at all. It just created a space of total heart opening flow of creativity. And it was really led, your leadership there by bringing in power tools, saws and drills, just showing that it doesn't matter what you do or what you do it with, as long as you're doing it with the spirit of contribution and expression, creativity. That's a space that I would love to see just spread like wildfire through our culture.
Yeah, that's my buddy. And it's interesting how I think music can be one of these things. I did teach for years formally, and now it's like I kind of see music as one of these things where if someone starts, it can be one of the first things that children have some delayed gratification about, and there's a certain discipline involved. But in general, there's all this energy, and I get this comes back to voice. I feel is Am I a musician? Am I not? Can I sing? Can I not sing? Do I have talent? Do I not have talent?
Oh, yeah. And I was told that my whole life. I can't sing. I'm not a musician. I have no talent.
Am I tone deaf? And so that's what I really want to step beyond, because it's your voice. Just pause. I ask everybody listening, just pause and think about music that has impacted you the most, has been the most moving for you, the most important, the most where you go for nourishment. And you will likely find, this is my question for you, how much of that connection, how much that artist did you connect with their authenticity? How much authenticity was part of that? How much the realness of what they were saying, of what they were expressing. And so to me, there's just like this vast resource of within us all that's just there. And it's just a tragic concept that some of us, I'm not musical, or I can't sing, I can't have a voice.
Yeah. I mean, somebody pointed out to me years ago that two of my favorite, most moving artists, Bob Dylan and Leonard Cohen, like many people would say they can't sing. And it's like, oh.
I've had people say that about my most influential musicians also.
Yeah. That was really healing for me to hear that. Great. Bob Dylan can't sing. That's awesome, man. Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah,
maybe this would be a nice moment to have a little musical break.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, I might just flow in and out of little snippets of these couple space operas I've written lately. One is called We Are Rising. Another one is called Thoughtosphere. This one song is called I Will Try to Do My Best. Would it be all right if I interrupt your meditation now? As I've been out wandering amongst your people, roaming around. Day by day, it's more apparent to my view. Your need is transparent to learn your inner natures, potentialities, the powers of your soul. Yeah, I have checked, investigated, as you would say, your cultures and your races, and I find this condition is quite prevalent wherever I go. Powers of your soul. Yeah, the voice.
Speaking of the voice, whose voice is that? Who's the first person in that? Who's saying the words in that song?
I was thinking about this as this interview was coming up with you, and I think it was my sister who said, "This is space opera. It doesn't really work for your music," and maybe the fact is that the characters, like there's not a lot of war and character and like things like that. But then I was looking at this preface of this book that I wrote, and this songbook, and I was thinking, gosh, maybe I shouldn't have written this. But then I read it, and I was like, oh, maybe that is useful. I'll read this. This space opera is written in the voice of extraterrestrial beings who desire nothing more than to see our humanity triumph through a developmental threshold into an existence of prosperity. They revere the magnitude of our creative potential, compassionately endeavor to understand our baffling choices, express sobering concern for the opportunities at risk of being lost, and posit that individuals' thoughts and deeds carry potent agency. These are anthems of hope for maturity into a more pleasant and fruitful existence based on the giving of service to others. So that's the voice. It's someone from that perspective.
So someone like really outside of our context, but just like very positive, kind of like benevolent towards us. And maybe someone who's gone, is the idea that these extraterrestrial beings or civilization, they've gone through these challenges. They've been here and done that, and they've surmounted them? Or did they just never, maybe we don't know. I don't know.
I leave that kind of open, but but maybe this song. Many civilizations have come and gone upon the surface of your world, yet to keep pace with spiritual growth, your people have struggled to put great efforts. They've been prone on scientific advancement, yet without the spiritual side to fit, you just can't handle it. And then to answer your question more, we who have experienced somewhat more appreciate what lies ahead and wonder for your growth. Are we more anxious than you yourselves are? Those who have stepped beyond us reach back a helping hand. And yes, my friends, we too must grow.
Well, there's an ambiguity there that I'd never caught before, that the we could be us, the humans, or it could be the extraterrestrial benevolent folks. Yeah, I mean, that really resonates with that. I had this guy, Robert McNaughton, on the podcast a few months ago. And it was really about this, right? The kind of inevitable growth and going through stages and developmental levels that it's like we're on the bus, whether or not we wanted to be on the bus.
We have traveled across the galaxies in our search. Still we have not found the ultimate in truth, nor have we found anyone who feels that they have. For life is a vast, endless, spiraling ascent to greater understandings of truth. We are rising. We are rising. You know, and one thing is intention. That's one thing I kind of cover here a little bit. And I think your listeners, will really identify maybe with the intentionality of personal growth. The average person with whom we meet has little, if any, thought of who they are, why they're here, or what this life is all about. A thought enters their minds that there's more than the necessities of life. The masses start thinking for the masses and rise up and open their eyes upon another world that exists beyond your troubles and your pleasures. Fun place to exercise your brain. Yeah, through these songs, there's a lot of I remember my wife, Lisa, saying once a kind of I don't know, call to action. I forget her words exactly, but
Yeah, there's a real intention. You have a wish. You have like a heartfelt wish for our people.
so yeah, the kind of intentional self-development piece. Actually, this is, I thought of you. I started writing the song over a year ago, and with all of your efforts with your work to help people kind of carve out their paths. So this is a little bit about that. Make your decision. And when you have made it, let nothing stand in the way of your development. For you can be what you will be. Still within your system. Fulfilling our mission. Our assignment we will not shirk. Until we have completed our work. We want to help, but it's your decision. So when your efforts show your will within, take advantage of the aids that come. And there will be a number of them.
Ah, beautiful. I want to talk about gratitude for a second. I want to ask you about either the role of gratitude in your life, the role of gratitude in this alien benevolent communication movement. Yeah, maybe one of those two things.
Well, the gratitude. It's been a central part of kind of my personal practice, meditation, and kind of this most recent. So the first space opera called "We Are Rising." I produced that and published it, and then this new one, Thoughtosphere, I'm still recording. I finished the songwriting process and made the songbook, but I'm still recording. And the Thoughtosphere, kind of the concept is just a celebration on the power of thought and the human thought as a resource. Not just as an intellectual framework, but as an actual power source. And as a creation of the direction of our lives and of our collective life, and gratitude being a way to intentionally build that, use that power of thought in a constructive way. And it actually is it does come through quite a bit in the songwriting. We've come into this life. Each and every one, with certain weaknesses to overcome. And if you build yourselves a living sea of gratitude for what you hold, what you can imagine, and what you cannot name. Your mission here you're overcoming. Yeah, you will accomplish beyond your fondest dream.
I'd like to dedicate that last song to a guy I met last week named Georgian Benta, who hosts a podcast that is exclusively about gratitude. And I just have such a limited kind of thought frame when I think about these things. I had no idea that would be even possible. It's like, wow, what a fantastic contribution to the world. So maybe that'll be next on your podcasting circuit. There was another piece of work I remember playing with you a little while ago. I think it was called the Look Up the Sky Walk. Does that fit into either of the albums you mentioned?
No, that was its own thing. Yeah, and that was last summer, and it was really written for myself as a meditation, and kind of some different songs that I could sing to. Yeah, again with kind of this ethic of cultivating my own growth, both as a regular practice and also as a sanctuary to retreat to and to nourish myself, like in times of trouble, in times of personal challenge. And that, gratitude was a big part of that. Kind of the idea that kind of no matter what we're facing, there's, there are things that you can be grateful for, as well as, even things you can imagine.
Yeah, so that's something I'd love to get into, because it was a challenging concept for me with my kind of engineering linear concept of time, but I really enjoy it, and I could see the power and the truth of it in different ways. So the idea, and please correct me, is that we have vision, we can imagine things that we want to create or we want to experience, and then just because we've imagined those things, we can give. And maybe we should, not just that we can, be grateful for the fact that we are able to imagine those things, regardless of whether they actually exist in this moment, because they exist in our thoughts.
Well said. Yeah. And anything we can grasp, we can manifest. And, and that's a lot of why I've kind of chosen this kind of extreme perspective of context to really challenge our imaginations, about what could be a really fundamentally better life. And so what was it? A couple Albert Einstein quotes come to mind, imagination more important than knowledge, classic one. Another one, I think he said something like, the most important question for us is, is this universe a friendly place? Something like that. He gave this mandate. We should ask ourselves that question.
And you're postulating, your hypothesis is just a very radical yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very, very different than some of the science fiction books I've been reading recently.
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of it too, is kind of this, again, this kind of this self-cultivation piece is we have a natural tendency to project things outward. If we're having a difficulty, we see that difficulty in other people. And so this is a central part of our human experience. And I would just ask, through this work, I am asking my listeners to just examine themselves when they participate in sci-fi culture that projects, the inherent kind of war paradigm,
evil, negativity, chaos,
onto the life of the universe. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beautiful. Are you familiar with the SETI?
Not enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just the basic idea is that there's a group of scientists and I guess hobbyists really want to broadcast proof of our existence and our knowledge to all corners of the universe. Not that the universe is rectangular in any way. With the idea that the people or the beings that hear it are going to be stoked and friendly. And there's this whole other current, and I've read a few awesome science fiction books about it. There's one called The Dark Forest that's just mind-blowing. It's beautiful. About how it seems overwhelmingly likely that the opposite is true, according to these authors. And that anybody who knows of our existence could be afraid that we develop the warlike capacity to annihilate them. And so they would naturally just try and destroy us first. And, in the context of that, these, like the SETI project just seems so, like naive or noble or beautiful, in your, framed by your discussion, they're really doing their best to set like positive intentions and project just the best of themselves rather than the fear that we so often have. Who knows what it'll result in?
Yeah, and it's just kind of the, what we see, kind of how we see, shall we say, public opinion trying to be used and shaped by fear of the other. That's a bit of a conversation I'd like to contribute to through my music. So when I see a blame message, when I see we are having a problem because of these other people and we need to suppress them or control them, again, that's where I'm, asking us to turn our attention inward and more to, see how we can contribute. Ever aware to be of what is going on within me? The most important thing for each of us to see. For we will not improve the world, for we first improve our thoughts and deeds. We've observed your people very closely. And when I say we, I speak of many, many. So often we see missed opportunities to apply your golden rule. Universally, the only way to save your civilization is to tolerate, to educate and serve each woman and man, for they express themselves according to their own understanding. Oh, ooh, ooh, ooh. I just really want a basis of the cherishing of the life, cherishing of the consciousness, the cherishing of the individual human being, that own spark of consciousness within every creature. And it's, to me, my career as a home health and hospice nurse is very much a meditation on that, on the incredible value of each person that I work with, and the incredible value of their journey and their development. I was a music teacher, and I have an endless appreciation for teachers because of how they carry that. They carry this mission for the individual growth of each student. And that's really my paradigm. That's my paradigm that I'm trying to get across through this, fairly theatrical approach. This is a place of growth. This my highest understanding of this existence is like a wonderful outdoor classroom. By outdoor, I mean outdoor to our wonderful earth and beyond, outdoor to space, whatever word that would be, out space.
Yeah, maybe this is a good moment for me to solicit a challenge. I like to do this. I've been doing this for a while, but in different forms. But I'd like to get some kind of challenge out of you for our listeners. Something that could contribute to their lives, that if they took you up on it, and if they ran an experiment, or they kind of walk the plank you laid out for them, that they might find an incredible benefit or some transformation on the other side of it. Is there anything like that comes to mind?
Oh, I love the question. Love the question. Yeah, so I'm going to say, imagine I do a little exercise, whether it's in writing, whether it's a song, hey, 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 that's what I've often chosen, or a conversation, but in some ways expressive, not just within your own head, of what things would look like on the other side. What things would look like on the other side of some kind of challenge you perceive for our life as a community of human beings on this earth. Here's an example. It's good to come among you again. With your kind permission, my friends, should like to speak few moments tonight concerning the brighter side. As you move to a new age upon your planet, of the new things that will come about in it, new methods of learning you will master. You'll learn much faster. Yeah, what you call a master's degree, currently requiring years 20, will in 5 years be accomplished. Oh, this should be quite an advantage, should it not? And once you pass this point, yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. Once you pass this point, there's a lot to look forward to. Ain't it worth a try? To get there. So there's a challenge.
I love that one.
Challenge to myself too.
Going back to that project you talked about from last summer, which was more of a tool for yourself, your own evolution, that look up the skywalk. There was a lot in there around forgiveness. I'm wondering if that's something you feel okay about sharing, or either in sung or spoken form.
Yeah, kind of, similar to gratitude. I would, just kind of bring it back to that conversation we've been having about gratitude, and how I've written about it or thought about it as I've been writing about it is a shortcut to the next level for our species. For as far as like how to harness the positive power of human thought,
gratitude
and forgiveness. Yes, yeah, exactly. Truly from the heart and the feeling that goes forth to say, I forgive you, brings a feeling you cannot mistake.
Pretty clear. Fantastic. I think it would also be appropriate to note in the spirit of gratitude and a recognition that you're one of the people who introduced NVC into my life, which is the nonviolent communication technique developed by Uncle Marshall Rosenberg. That's really, not that I use it very often, but it's still really transformed my life and transformed just how I see our potential of relating to others and keeping just that awareness that we all have needs and that usually those are the same needs. So thank you. And just wondering how is that related to the space opera? Because it must be.
Come from a point far from this place, what would be thousands of light years in your measurements of space. I come to your system to study its conditions and be of help in any way that I can. From my position, the life that we lead, you currently can't conceive for an understanding of oneness. We have achieved individuality. We possess each a minute cell of intelligence, yet we can blend this and between us share experience. In a small way, this must begin. Yeah, if it is to expand into the cosmos. Ooh, 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 into the cosmos. I share that song from that question because it's just a little story about these people who could share experience. You know, it's kind of the message, and to blend. So Marshall's message was about a lot about honest expression and empathic listening, and so just in my own journey and my dreams about how we can listen to each other, and it kind of gets back to the beginning about my dream of music and how I want our voices to sound, and I want similarly, I want our voices to be heard, and if there's a way we can do that and get beyond so much conflict.
Yeah. Well, great. I want to go into that a little bit.
All right.
Tell me, and this is part of my coaching hat,
yeah.
Coaching role.
Please.
What do you see that looking like concretely in 10 years? And what role will you have played in that?
I think so concretely, there's the microcosm of myself, but then my immediate family, so there's, again, like that voice piece and that kind of mission through music is like my own music. Lisa Bridge, my wife, I just produced an album of hers. It's called It Was Rad, and absolutely amazing. She's like, her voice is really, I loved hearing her singing voice, and and then my children are, we were just talking this morning about my daughter Olive, how wonderful of a pianist she is, and how she's kind of at this point about making music her own. And then my twin 7-year-old sons are just starting to use the space and have sessions with their friends too. And then my community of musicians, the local one, that like you and I have done together and beyond. And I have a label called Hey Gang, that Gabriel Murray runs with me. So kind of helping artists, all of us, express ourselves. And, as far as the empathic listening piece goes, again, on a concrete level, a big expression of that in my life is like through my work, through my nursing work. But that's more of like on an individual basis. I'm not sure exactly how to tie that into like your question about like societal.
My question was probably more directed towards the music piece. So kind of step one, if I hear you correctly, is breaking down the barrier in our minds that we're not musicians. And then step two is helping everyone you're in contact with by like producing their music, by being like that, not only the source of encouragement, but also kind of destroying the technical barriers and being like, hey, come into the studio, I'll help you produce your music.
In a certain way, in kind of a planting of seeds way, I'm not sure that's kind of what I see people doing who I play with is, going on and producing their own music is the pattern I've seen. So that's certainly what I want for my children. But it's a movement, and that's the technology is shifting so that it's more possible for people to be their own producers. So it's certainly pointing at a big change in how music is done. And
just imagining like walking down the street in the world that you're creating 10 years from now. And it's just like everyone's playing music. Everyone has, I don't know if we'll have URLs in 10 years, but everyone has telepathic links to the albums they made that you could listen to. Fantastic. Any other songs you'd like to share with the listeners?
I'd like to share the song about teachers, about what we can do for each other, how we can support each other here. From each other, as you know, we have so much to learn. From each other, as you know, we have so much to learn. You all have very wise and understanding teachers. Without them you would find earth life more difficult. You get a great deal of help and guidance from these teachers. If you're gonna go for something, send a mental picture. Maybe it was a sentimental picture in that line that made me, when you're talking about telepathic URLs. I don't know. Would you like to play with me at all? Would you like to do a song to close out?
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd be honored to. Yeah, probably also worth mentioning that while you're playing the piano in the studio today during this conversation, if people go and check out your music on Spotify or whatever, there's a lot of other instruments involved. It'll sound quite different than this. Just get ready. It's going to be a little more, I would say, even trippier is kind of how I would describe it.
I wanted to give all you listeners the opportunity to enjoy this beautiful therapeutic bass music that I've always enjoyed from Ankh. He's going to play bass with me on this song here. 2. I'm almost out of the beam. Pull it back now, pull it back some more. Take it a bit to the right. That's better, that's good. But you're much too warm. Bring the temperature down. Bring it down now. The visual is opening up. I've never seen you dressed like that. Hey there, tonight you're sure looking sharp. You're sure running up in the yellow tonight. I can see you okay with what feels normal sight. Everything is okay. Yeah, everything feels normal here. I'm okay now. Clear. Clear. Yeah, they will. Thank you. Oh yeah.
Oh, thank you, Joe. Thanks for the opportunity. It's the first time I've done anything like that on the podcast. A little bit nervous about how that's going to go down, but the stats will tell us.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Before we part, how can people hear more of your music?
The HeyGangRecords.com is yeah, that's probably the best way. That's the label, and also be in touch with for other musicians, or if you want to participate. Yeah, all the stores, all just under my name, Joe Bridge. Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. This is I see this podcast. I see you as the artist. I see us as your songs. So I feel like you played me like a song today, and as you do your others, and I've loved all your episodes, and I'm just excited for what's to come as you build your masterpiece.
That concludes another episode of the 10,000 Heroes Show. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you to our guest, Joe Bridge, and to each one of you who share these episodes. Tell your friends, and just be touched. Allow yourself to be touched by the content. That itself is a joy, and I receive that in gratitude. Your hosts are Ankur Shah-Delight and Nathan Ramos. Thanks again to Pierre for the awesome show artwork, and to DJ Plainview, who does our theme music. And thanks to our audio editor, Martin Santagana. If you like the show and you want to support our mission and our growth, there's a couple of things you can do. The main one is to reach out and let us know how the show has contributed to your life and how our show could further contribute to your life. That really helps us. Once you've done that, the next best thing is to share the episodes that touch you with people you think would also resonate. It's that simple. Share the love. And once again, thank you for listening, and take good care.